This video examines Neuro-Symbolic AI for Korean criminal law, sentencing prediction and document drafting by Yeonseok Lee. The purpose of this video is academic research and educational study. Okay, hello everyone and welcome. Think of today's explainer as a graduate-level chalkboard lecture where we're mapping out the logic of a truly fascinating paper. We are exploring the intersection of cutting-edge artificial intelligence and the strict, unforgiving logic of the legal system. So grab your virtual notebooks because we are unpacking exactly how to build a mathematically bulletproof AI for prosecutors.
Here is our syllabus for today's lecture. 1. The core research question. 2. Key concepts and definitions. 3. The 5-module methodology. 4. A real-world DUI case study. And finally, 5. Conclusion and final analysis. Let's get started. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The core research question. The gap in legal tech. To really understand this research, we first have to understand the massive problem motivating the work. Picture the daily grind of a prosecutor in South Korea. They're absolutely overwhelmed by high-volume, minor traffic infractions. Think simple drunk driving, unlicensed driving, minor fender benders. Processing all of these creates a massive administrative bottleneck. We desperately need an automated solution to help clear that backlog. But here's the catch. When someone's liberty and finances are on the line, the system cannot just be mostly right. It has to be mathematically bulletproof. So the core question is, how can we automate these high-volume cases without sacrificing strict legal determinism? Now, you might be wondering, why not just use ChatGPT or another large language model? Well, if I were sketching this out on a board right now, I'd put pure LLMs on one side and the legal requirement on the other. Pure LLMs are phenomenal at reading dense legal text, sure, but they are fundamentally probabilistic. They just predict the next word. Because of this, when you ask them to perform strict arithmetic based on legal statutes, they hallucinate. They make basic math errors. On the other side, we have the criminal law requirement, strict mathematical determinism with absolute zero tolerance for stochastic errors. You literally cannot find someone an extra $1,000 just because a neural network hallucinated a token. The standard generative AI simply fails the rigid demands of criminal law. Moving on to Section 2, Key Concepts and Definitions. Establishing the lexicon. First, we need to understand the legal environment we're working in here. Summary proceedings, or gayak in Korean. In plain language, this is basically the judicial fast track. For minor offenses, prosecutors do not want to drag everyone into a full formal trial. It takes too long. Instead, they look at documentary evidence, like police reports and breathalyzer tickets, and just issue a summary order for a fine. It's built entirely for volume and speed, making it the perfect candidate for automation. Next up, the technological solution, Neuro-Symbolic AI. So the crucial point is that the author's answer to the LLM hallucination problem is a hybrid approach. It marries the neuro part, the semantic pattern recognition of LLMs that can read those messy police reports, with the symbolic part, a rigorous, rule-based logic solver that actually guarantees mathematical correctness. All right, Section 3, the 5-module methodology, deconstructing the architecture. Let's break down the exact pipeline the author built. The author designed a brilliant 5-step data provenance flowchart. It starts with Module 1, pulling in raw, messy police PDFs using optical character recognition. Module 2 uses the LLM to extract the actual facts. Module 3 brings a human into the loop to verify those facts. Module 4 passes the verified facts to a formal logic solver called Z3. And finally, Module 5 takes the mathematically verified math and generates the official legal document. Looking at this end-to-end pipeline, you can see a very strict separation of labor. The LLM is restricted only to semantic extraction in Module 2. It reads the unstructured text and organizes it, but it is kept completely isolated from the math. It's essentially acting as a very smart reading assistant, not the judge. Now, what's really interesting about this slide showing Module 3 is the human-in-the-loop verification. In safety-critical legal environments, we absolutely cannot trust AI blindly. The system shows the AI's extracted facts on the right, highlighting exactly where it found that information in the original document on the left. Crucially, every extracted fact defaults to false. A human prosecutor must explicitly toggle it to true to validate the AI's semantic findings. If the human doesn't approve it, the system cannot move forward. Once the human approves those facts, we enter Module 4. And this is where the magic happens. The validated facts are handed over to the Z3 SMT solver. This isn't a neural network, it's a formal theorem prover. It basically takes the South Korean 2026 sentencing guidelines, which have been modeled as strict mathematical axioms, and calculates the fine. If there's a logical contradiction, like say a user accidentally clicking both first-time offender and fifth-time offender, the solver fails safely and loops right back to the human.
Section 4. Real-world DUI case study, putting theory into practice. We are moving into the praxis phase now.
So how does the system actually apply the law to a drunk driving incident? Let's start the derivation right here with the verified case facts. We have a suspect who crashed into a median barrier, with a breathalyzer confirming a blood alcohol concentration, or BAC, of 0.12%. And the human prosecutor has verified these facts. First up, the Z3 solver checks the BAC level. The law explicitly states that a BAC between 0.08 and 0.20 falls into Category 3. Because 0.12 sits squarely in that range, the solver mathematically proves and locks this in as a Type 3 DUI. There is absolutely no guessing here. It is a strict mathematical constraint.
Next, the system maps out the special factors. It weighs mitigating factors against aggravating factors. Let's say in this specific case there is a verified mitigating factor. Perhaps they were moving the car a very short distance, which poses a low risk. The solver compares the count of mitigating factors, which is 1, against aggravating factors, which is 0. Because mitigating outweighs aggravating, the system securely locks the sentencing into what's called the mitigated zone.
But wait, the solver has to perform an overriding check for mandatory imprisonment. The logic executes a composite and/or check to ensure this isn't, say, a repeat offender with 3 prior DUIs, because if it were, they wouldn't get a summary fine at all. They'd be facing mandatory prison. Assuming our suspect clears this check, the solver retrieves the statutory baseline fine for a mitigated Type 3 DUI, which sits between 2,000 and 4,000 Korean won. Finally, we reach the dominance adjustment. Because the mitigating factor wasn't just present, but dominant, meaning there were literally 0 aggravating factors to counter it, the statutory math dictates that the minimum penalty must be halved. The solver automatically cuts the 2 million baseline down to 1 million. The final, deterministic output is a legally binding fine range of 1 million to 4 million KRW. No LLM hallucination, just 100% mathematically proven statutory logic.
Section 5. Conclusion and final analysis. Synthesizing the lecture. Let's wrap up the theoretical and practical implications here.
And this brilliantly illustrates the author's main contribution. As stated in the paper, by splitting the workflow, the system directly addresses transparency and safety. The LLM is essentially demoted to a highly capable reading assistant. It doesn't make any choices. The final legal authority remains exactly where it belongs, with the human prosecutor, supported by a formal math engine. Of course, no system is perfect, right? The author points out some limitations. The entire pipeline still relies heavily on the LLM extracting the text perfectly back in Module 2. If the LLM misses a nuance and the human doesn't catch it, the math engine is going to compute the wrong outcome based on faulty premises. For future research, scholars should definitely investigate applying these formal solvers to hard cases, situations where the statutory rules are ambiguous or require deep judicial interpretation rather than just strict arithmetic. So before class dismisses, here are your 3 key takeaways to jot down. Number 1, Neuro-Symbolic AI solves the LLM hallucination problem by isolating the neural network purely to semantic text extraction. Number 2, human-in-the-loop verification is non-negotiable. It guarantees that all legal variables are anchored directly in factual evidence. And number 3, SMT solvers like Z3 execute deterministic logic to mathematically prove the statutory fine ranges without error. I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. If neurosymbolic frameworks can perfectly automate the easy cases, the high-volume, rule-based infractions, what happens to the role of the judge? As AI takes over the arithmetic of the law, will human judicial discretion be strictly reserved only for those philosophical hard cases where the explicit rules run out? It's a fascinating shift in the philosophy of law, and one we are watching unfold right now. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the logic of everything.